easiest way, because some of you are a little bit new to meditation, but we're connecting into the ground. And there's this old saying about the lotus flower roots down first to rise up and out of the quagmire of swampiness before it can rise open and flower and retreat a little bit again. So it has this living movement. Um, so yeah, so press down through your pelvis. This allows the creation of space for breath. And that space for breath is really, really important. So make sure that you're connecting into that sense of breathing through the belly, allowing the belly to move as you breathe. And you can make it big or small, but it's something for you to go back to anytime you go into thinking. Unusually, there was something came up this morning, and I just wanted to run with it since it seemed like appropriate for this specific course where we're connecting into the intuitive self. So placing your palms upward and bringing your thumbs inside. So you only hold this for a few minutes. It's nice when you're laying on your back, but just for this practice today, everything is curled. And this is Avahana Mudra. Um, and this is about accepting all that comes our way as lessons and blessings. Very hard to do when we're in the middle of something that changes our lives. And yet we understand while it's changing our lives that there's access to this. So this mudra just helps us settle in the sensation of acceptance momentarily. So just so you know that it's there and you can use it throughout the practice. I'm going to let it go because I've already done a little bit of mudra. But what I wanted to say was what came up in my mind was this is about the unconditional love of our life. So for me, the first thing was like, oh, I was pushing back from the unconditional love of my life. I understand because I have children, I understand the feeling of unconditionally loving another human. And then I also realized that in that same moment, if there's something going on with my children in their lives, I really push against that. I really find that hard to like digest and accept. I want to solve and protect and do all the other things. And whether you have children or not, I think that for me, children was a big lesson. And everyone has these lessons of what unconditional love arrives as. So how can I bring that back to me? Because that's what this mudra is asking. So how can you bring it back to you? How can you bring it back to accepting that this life happening is currently moving through you and that it's not easy, that we need to allow ourselves to love ourselves like a mother or father should, did, or would, or could, and to surround ourselves in that warm, loving light of our own unconditional heart. So we all have the unconditional heart. It is where we were born from. It is that eternal light that in Asia, they bring their hands together and they bow to each other, recognizing each person has an eternal light. And when I lived in Japan when I was a kid, it was normal to bow, not on the naval base where I lived, but out in the cities. And, you'd meet, you'd be introduced to someone new, and always to bow to the heart of that person. So whether you are an adversary or advocate or family friend, it's always to bow first to their loving light. Sometimes I wish that we all could do that. Um, so watch what resonates today and tomorrow in that acceptance of current circumstances that are, through the practices of Vedanta, yoga and Ayurveda, are lessons and blessings. And you can rail against it all you want. You do not have to follow this system, but it is sitting and watching what arrives when things come up. That's this practice today, because in a few moments we will be led into journaling. And the journaling can be about the subject matter or something that has arrived, like this. I wrote this down at the end of, I was doing a short meditation this morning. At the end of it, I wrote it down, and it was all I wrote. I didn't write other things. I was just questioning my rejection of it, as in, ooh, I can do it for others. But it's to, like, understand that that's also, what I have come from, and then now I grew into that. Easier to do for others. Now it's my turn. Now it's my turn to mother that one that really needs that warmth and that support behind the scenes, not even knowing. Um, and all this takes time. It's like a bit of an unraveling, but also in that unraveling of sitting in our presence, you're stabilizing in the unraveling of your belief systems. In unraveling, it's like a flower, it's like the lotus is really bound and then opens. So she's not all wiggly woggly like a sea anemone. She's like, the flower opens and she still stays formed, and maybe one or two of the petals might wiggle faster, but those are the variations of rejection and acceptance, and then coming back into, I'm stabilized here. I'm seeing all of this, appreciating, not appreciating, I'm still. All the energies. So you have a few moments of silence. So as you sit in silence, I'm going to read the affirmation, to use it as you will. Through heartfelt acceptance, I open to receive all of life as a learning and a blessing. Avahana Mudra is a gesture of invocation. So the invitation comes for cultivating heartfelt acceptance. To cultivate. So it is only to cultivate. It does not mean that it's going to be just blossomed immediately. It is to start to tiptoe into the garden of acceptance. And we can retreat as well. We can dance with it. and not forgetting your breath will help support the movement, the internal movement within, and also stabilize the mind's movement. And so, just to continue as you are, and to say, first of all, one of the things that I noticed was it wasn't so much acceptance, um, because a lot of what I do is learning about acceptance, but it was the word before it that I wasn't sure I was or have had that facility to use it in combination with acceptance, which is heartfelt acceptance. Um, and so then combining the two means you're really engaging a whole bodily because there's nothing we do in our life that doesn't involve our heart. And often um, the heart energy uh, sits in the shadows of what we do in our personality mind. So that's more what we would call the ego. Um, in modern science, it's the ego, but in yoga and Ayurveda, it's um, it's just one little part of us, and then there's the more discernment, which is the we factor, and the smaller part, the personality mind, is the I factor. And when we come into heartfelt acceptance, we're moving into the we, as in I am a part of the whole, as in even just the whole of myself, this whole functioning system, and working towards the greater good of the self first, and then that just moves out to others. The other thing was to come back to the initial idea of this series was into intuition. I know it's very catchy, wasn't it? And so I generally don't focus too much on how to bring forward the courses, they just happen. And in this heartfelt acceptance, it's the really just wildly one of the best ways to trust our intuition is to begin to have heartfelt acceptance that what is arriving in our mind is actually not from the I, but from the we, not from what all my perceptions are individually, as from what I grew up from, my culture, um, my family history, my own practices that reaffirmed everything that I was given in the past. But in that, as I've grown into an adult, deciding to stand in my life using all the practices that you have that has enabled you to arrive, is that I'm in fact creating a sense of I understand, I'm beginning to see, I'm beginning to feel more. My voice is going. Isn't that funny talking about this? The heart expression comes through voice. So the intuition, and I only know intuition deeply because of my practices in my office in massage treatments and consultations, and that's where I really allowed it to start to flower, where I was just like in a very meditative silent space for others again, so always serving others. And then the intuition would arrive, um, and always seemed to be so right. Then it's like, so I'm really listening, I'm really accepting what's arriving. And now I understand that it's a heartfelt acceptance, because in that state of ahimsa, of non-harming, I'm not negating anything that's arriving. I'm not saying, oh no, that's wrong. So as a way to use intuition and develop it is to seek out your parking angel, um, or seek out that thing that you're looking for in a shop, and just asking, will my intuitive self arrive, um, to guide me into where this would be. It's just to really connect in a daily, simple practices, of, well, what should I eat today? What actually is the best thing for me today, rather than, making pre-decisions. But I do pre-decisions all the time, because otherwise I won't eat properly. So that's the intuitive saying, well, we need to plan ahead, because you're not the kind of gal that can plan ahead. Otherwise you'll just eat bread 5 meals a day. So now we come to journaling. Uh, and you journal on what notations you have derived from either the talking or the silence. And there is more silence coming in the next few, but the first one is generally a bit talky anyway. Um, but to use either this recording again, or to set a timer tomorrow and try and continue with the practice at the same time. And even if you want to do a shorter practice, you do that. But notating, if you want, then rather than on what has arrived, if you feel that there was no space for that, is how can you develop um, acceptance of what it is you hear in your mind, or symbols, pictures, memories. They all arrive when we connect into our intuition, um, deeply bound up. Memories are free, because if the intuition is awake, we are often very ready to understand and decipher um, events that happened in the past, or else adding heartfelt acceptance as a part of, and journaling maybe later tonight if you feel. And that could be more stream writing or thought consciousness. And you have 5 more minutes to either sit or journal or both. And allow your breath to hold you if you feel the urgency to leave. To just know that these last few minutes are just as important as the middle and the beginning. And I do understand that there is often necessity to go as well. And coming into your last moment, press your pelvis down and breathing in and breathing out. And bowing your head to your heart. And asking your heart, what does it need today? Inhale, lift your head up and let the answer arrive. And that's definitely from the intuitive self. Any questions to the heart are always answered in truth. And it is another way of developing trust and acceptance is to speak to your heart, to speak to your body. It really is amazing. Inhale, lift your arms up, roll your wrists. Oh. And I'll see you Wednesday.